When I first encountered the invitation to explore who am I? What am I? I took those questions to be that, questions rather than an invitation. I failed to really recognize and appreciate the invitation contained in those queries, that self-inquiry. I first heard it after reading a book or seeing a tape by Gangaji entitled, Who Am I? And then she told me about Papaji and wrote about Ramana Maharshi and those folks, and the whole self-inquiry movement of exploring who am I? And in a sense running into the neti deconstruction approach. I am not this body, I'm not these thoughts, I'm not these feelings and emotions and sensations of the body. I have them, but that's not who I am. There is that which is aware of these thoughts in the mind and feelings in the body, and that formless something is who and what I am. And I took that inquiry, that approach, as if these were really questions for which I needed to find answers, puzzles to be solved. And so I generated a lot of verbiage. I read a lot, looking for verbal, conceptual answers to these questions. And it took me quite a long time to see the invitation embedded in those questions. And the invitation was just basically to look, to watch what happens, to see how the mind reacts, how the body reacts to stimuli in the environment, and therefore to become more accustomed, more sensitive in a sense, to awareness itself. That which is not in form, that which is essentially formless. Therefore, not seen directly. The whole world, the physical world, is revealed in the spaciousness that is consciousness. And the invitation, who am I, or as I prefer to look at later on, what am I? Because who am I kind of quickly dissipated. I was not a who, but what. And for me, part of that what is formless awareness. Those are the words I use. And gradually what happened as a result of this invitation to simply watch and see is that I was able to see through ego, through individual self, through the mind-created sense of me. And seeing through that was remarkably relieving. It was letting go of a weight I didn't even know I was carrying around until I let it go. And the literature talks about the awareness, awakening to itself, gets to a point where the ego drops away, the self drops away, the personal identity drops away, and maybe that will happen. In some permanent fashion, it falls away. But for me, at this moment, it is enough for me to see through the ego, to see through the mind-created sense of me and not get caught up in its games, in its concerns, in its suffering. You know, the body is conditioned. The vehicle for awareness awakening to itself is this body of mind. It's a conditioned organ, this biological body-mind of mine. And so it generates, for it to get around, this whole psychological self. And buried beneath it are all these substratas and sub-organizations and sub-minds, all geared towards self-preservation, preservation of the body, conservation of the form, continued existence of the form. And a lot goes on in the body that is outside of so-called conscious awareness. It happens, you know, the beating of the heart, the expanding, contracting of the lungs, the blood flowing through the veins and arteries and capillaries. So this vehicle, this vessel, is not so easily dropped off or to be ignored. It is what it is. It's a means by which awareness, formless awareness, awakens to its formless nature through form. This conceptually paradoxical outcome and result. But the invitation is to look, to resist the temptation, in a sense, to find explanations, to work with definitions, and to let go of assumptions, and to work with not knowing mind. Because in some ways, working with definitions and assumptions and beliefs are rejections of the invitation. It's a way of saying no to the invitation, simply to see what there is to see, to feel what there is to feel, to be. All these are words simply pointing to the ephemeral. They are not anything to hang on to. They are to be seen through as well. And that is the purpose, a small purpose of this particular video, is to encourage you to reacquaint yourself with that invitation, to inquire, to look into who you are, what you are, without looking for judgments or answers or solutions. It is ever unfolding. It's a practice, like meditation is a practice. It's not really finding answers, coming up with solutions, figuring out this puzzle of what it is to be a conscious human being. It's about living it and allowing your demeanor and actions to embody that awareness, to act in accordance with that recognition that I have a mind-created sense of me, that I have a personal identity, but that is not ultimately who and what I am, who and what you are. Good luck in finding this out for yourself.